Alright, I know I already reacted to a 100 men versus 1 gorilla video, but we're reacting to another one because this isn't just 100 men. This is 100 Riot reacts versus 1 gorilla. So, this should be interesting. And I'm curious to see what Goji Center's take on this thing is too, so yeah. This will definitely be interesting, and I got nothing else for this intro, so, you know, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go follow my Twitch, check out my gaming channel if you like, and without further ado, let's jump right into the video now, shall we?
100 men versus 1 gorilla? This shouldn't even be a debate, bro. The gorilla is winning every single...
Who would win in a fight, a gorilla or 100 men?
Everyone keeps saying the gorillas would win, but actually the men would win.
Who would win in a fight out of 100 men and a gorilla? I can't even believe I'm answering this, but...
100%. 100 men can take down a silverback.
Exactly.
I think I can take one with
600. You think he can take it down by himself? You know what? I respect the courage and the balls. Okay.
600, huh?
I mean, you will not be winning, but I definitely respect the courage.
100 dudes could take one single gorilla.
Well, that certainly was not a question we had on our 2025 bingo card.
So, you know, I'm hoping for more stupid debates like this to happen more and more over over the year. Like, I really do. Like this, because these stupid debates are funny. That's why. Because I want more stuff like this. Like, what else, other stupid debates is gonna happen? I don't know. I hope some comes up though.
So, can 100 humans beat 1 gorilla?
Yes.
What if we tenfold ourselves against just one of our most powerful living relatives? Today at Goji Center, we are going to tackle this bizarre subject that has been sending shockwaves through the internet and see what kind of scenarios we can cook up. If you're curious to see what the horrible aftermath will be, then stay tuned, because no matter who wins today, it's gonna get ugly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The way we are going to approach...
Yeah, because like I said in my Casual Geographic reaction to this, though humans will win, but that gorilla is going down swinging, okay? Like, it will. Like, those fight or flight instincts are definitely gonna activate. Like, they're not, like, the humans aren't getting out of this unscathed, alright? They're losing people on this. Yeah. But the humans are still winning, yeah.
This is by first stating...
And 100 Riot reacts could most likely take out 1 gorilla as well, yeah. Unless they're all cowardly or whatever, I don't know. I don't know Riot reacts, and I don't watch them too much, but, yeah.
That no matter how you look at it, this isn't a yes or no answer. There are different factors that come into play that may heavily dictate the inevitable bloody outcome.
Yeah,
therefore, we will look at this...
Yeah, that is another thing. It also depends on the humans they're putting up against too, so yeah. It's really more depends scenario, but 100 humans definitely beats the gorilla more times out of none, in my opinion, yeah. Especially if they're just, you know, all going in like I don't care and all that stuff, nothing to lose, all that mentality and all that, then yeah, the gorilla's definitely going down, yeah.
Different perspectives, 3 scenarios, 3 fights.
Alright.
This funny scenario is fictional because it involves animal and human behavior as well as some serious safety concerns. 100 rational people are not about to decide to throw caution out the window and bum rush the most powerful primate on the planet.
That is
and
true.
Fighting a human, let alone a horde of them, is just about the last thing a gorilla wants.
Yeah.
Gorillas are actually quite peaceful herbivores in most scenarios.
Yeah, like they're like, if a gorilla was like just minding its own business, just chilling around and like saw like 100 people about to go rush up towards it, he is running away. It's running away. It's gonna run. Yeah, it's not gonna. It's most likely gonna run. Like I wouldn't stay if I was a gorilla and I saw 100 dudes coming at me. Maybe if it was like 1 or 2, then maybe I'll go up and fight. But like 100, nope, I'm getting out. Yeah, I'm hoofing it.
But they and other apes are pretty perceptive. Just like them, humans have 2 arms, 2 legs, opposable thumbs, no tail, smell, and sound like them to some degree. Essentially speaking, gorillas can tell that we're apes too and don't see us as a threat most of the time. Just weird-looking neighbors. That said, they can get especially violent and are pretty well aware of what weaknesses we have. Sum that knowledge up with strength incomparable to that of a human, and you have a perfect recipe for disaster. To test this scenario out and to make an educated analysis for today's episode, we found a brave volunteer who was willing to be our crash test dummy. Meet Riot, a YouTuber who kindly accepted our proposal to be cloned 99 times and lead the charge against the gorilla. But who exactly? To make this a more realistic scenario, we're going to use a full-grown male gorilla, given that they are the most sexually dimorphic of all apes, and Riot is a gentleman who wouldn't want to throw hands with a lady. Juice up our
Okay.
simulations with
Fair
the
enough.
required data.
Are we gonna do like a deep dive into Riot's personality and everything too? Because that'll that'll be funny if they do. And on Wednesdays around noon, Riot likes to scratch his butt before he takes a nap.
Start with the stats. We'll use one of the largest gorillas ever recorded, since it is going up against a monumental pile of human. This one,
Yeah.
recorded in 1938 from the secluded misty mountains of Kivu, with an upright stance of almost 2 meters or 6.2 inches tall, and tipping the scales at about 220 kilos or 490 pounds. This massive ape towered over most people, despite
Never
apes
thought
having
it-
typically short legs for their body.
Never thought I'd see a monkey or gorilla model of this, but okay.
Size. Other potential records show some wild males of multiple species of gorilla could break 250 to 260 kilograms. That's over a quarter of a ton. Waiting in line for our next scenario is someone who might ring a bell. As for a ridiculous meme, we might as well have a ridiculous amount of audacity. So, humanity's opponent will be one of the most notorious apes in history, whose fame was by no means intentions of his own. One of the most infamous former residents of the Cincinnati Zoo and named after Rita Marley's song, Harambe, back for revenge and eager to take it out on the human race. Standing at 5'10" and
Oh boy, hey, we're going here. Well, this got more interesting.
weighing 440 pounds, Harambe was, or for this test, is a western lowland gorilla. This species was perhaps destined for eternal memedom, as the scientific name for this species is, and no, we're not making this up,
No, boy.
gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. At about 17
Okay.
years old, Harambe would have been at his physical prime. So, what will our gorillas bring?
Gorilla. Like, that's Harambe's still with us. All you gotta do is just go into a mirror, just say gorilla, and they'll pop out the mirror like Bloody Mary or some shit.
Into the battle. Well, let's begin by clearing the air here with setting the record straight with the bite.
And when he pops out, you better have your dick out. Dicks out for Harambe, man. Like, oh Christ. Damn, I was really in middle school when that happened, huh? Damn.
may have heard the bite force of 1300 psi. This kind of chomping pressure would be greater than the vast majority of even larger land carnivores, like some gigantic brown bears, twice as heavy as the great apes. And, well, this metric is just not quite accurate. We'll be citing a study published by the American Journal of Anthropology, which looked into the anatomy and workings of ape jaws, including humans.
Okay.
So this will come in handy. The study found that the actual biting pressure for a gorilla was substantially smaller, with a total muscle force of 4,000 newtons distributed across the molars at around 527 pounds per square inch. Still more than enough to bite through bamboo like we would carrots. But if this was focused on these enlarged canine things that slide past each other in a self-sharpening motion, the pressure increases to around 1,179 psi. Now, granted, Harambe was an above-average-sized gorilla, so it is possible his chomping numbers were higher than the average studied individuals in the study. But we'll play safe and round up to the flat number of 4,100 newtons, 530 psi at the molars, and 1,200 on the canine.
Yeah, see, that was another thing I was saying, is that the bite force is kind of weird with the gorilla, yeah, because it goes up to that, but like it's more like around way lower, and it's just, yeah. I don't remember the entire specifics, but like just, yeah.
Believe it or not, during a fight to the death, leveraging our own chompers can prove lethal. It is admittedly an unorthodox method of dispatching an enemy, but it is inevitably and very likely that at least one of our clones will resort to deploying the pearly whites in the midst of close quarter combat. For this episode, we asked Riot.
But yeah, humans bite force, while not, nearly as good as a gorilla or anything, it's still, none to scoff at, because, you bite down hard enough, it's gonna hurt. Are we about to analyze Riot's teeth?
Provide some specs regarding his own mandibles to get an educated guess on whether or not this bite will make a dent on a gorilla.
We're just putting Riot as a specimen, okay.
It's massive. Other members of the homini, such as Australopithecus, had fairly impressive bite forces despite their small size. Homo sapiens are an example of sacrificed jaw strength to allow the skull to give more room to our own primary weapon, the brain. Factoring metrics taken from multiple men and our friend Riot, his biting force would be approximately, at an above average, 835 newtons or 198 psi at full crunch. That said, biting may be the very last thing our brave friend wants to do, given the gape of a human skull is so much smaller than a gorilla's, And seemingly, Riot lacks any fangs to puncture into the ape's fur and skin. Biting the neck might result in breaking the jaw from overextending if the gorilla thrashed and yanked. We'll add this info into our...
I think it definitely like bite a few chunks off, though. Maybe, you know, cause some more damage if it get, you know, bite at the right area. But, you know, like you said, you probably wouldn't want to do that. Like, I'd say, like, maybe going for the neck could probably be proved lethal. But, you know, you got to get under its head. And it can bite you before you bite it under its neck. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, and then the arms, too. And then just, yeah, it's going to get really hard to get under there to do that still, yeah. So yeah, just go straight up going for that would not be the optimal move. But if you have a chance, like if you're right there somehow, I don't know how you'd get into it. I imagine you would be very hurt or something. But if you are like right there in that situation where you're able to do that, by all means, go ahead and go for the neck, all right?
And move on to the other two weapons our gorillas will bring into the mosh pit. Gorilla strength is something that is widely exaggerated, with some hearsay statements that make it sound like the apes are from Krypton rather than the Congo and heft around 10 times their body weight. The reality is that gorillas do have a lot more upper body strength than humans due to large muscle density and fast twitch muscles, much more mass on the arms, and more rigid joints to maximize strength at the cost of some dexterity. The reason we can't easily lift up stuff many times our body weight is the same reason they cannot throw objects as well and manipulate tools as easily as we can. Gorillas don't throw accurate punches like many people claim on the internet. Rather, they swing their arms like a pair of sledgehammers and tend to aim for blows to the upper body and smacks to the head. Considering that each arm and shoulder accounts for 15% of a gorilla's mass, and being conservative to play it fair, we can estimate an ape like Harambe could bludgeon arm strikes at over 6,000 to 12,000 newtons of force. Enough to crack the skull with a well-placed swipe or break many ribs.
Maybe over-exaggerated, but I still don't want to get hit by one.
All this in a matter of a second. Not to mention the ability for the gorilla to wrap its entire hand around our relatively thin arms and legs and yank them off the socket with pretty much low effort. Our good friend Riot, meanwhile...
What was this right here? Is he trying to go for like a high kick or something?
Off the socket with pretty much low effort. Our good friend Riot, meanwhile, does have some boxing experience under his belt. The average human can throw a swing of about 750 newtons. Technique and strength play a huge factor, with slugging boxers able to produce multiple times that force in repeated tests. Our test subject here was able to produce an impressive 1,000 to 1,300 newtons of striking force. Kicks would also be a valid option as well, as long as whoever winds up that kick doesn't mind risking it all on attack that could severely backfire. At 2,500 to 3,000 newtons of force with one well-placed kick, is this enough to incapacitate a gorilla though? Really, the only near-effective placement for these blows would be on the skull. This maneuver is mostly inflicted on the
I was gonna say maybe its legs try to knock it down, but, well, I don't know.
Zygomatic, parietal, and occipital bones, jaw, and neck. On a gorilla, this would land here, with far superior bone density at about 3 times thicker and more dense muscle.
Yeah, just jump up and drop kick it right there.
Padding on its face than humans, it's likely that this blow would just piss off the gorilla even more, bringing far more adverse effects. Lastly, let's talk about a weapon some may not even think about. Mass. Yes, carrying a lot of meat has its benefits. Mix that
like I can... Imagine this thing running full speed at a human, just tackle that shit out of them.
That with a fast-moving speed, and you have a lethal weapon of ass destruction. Harambe weighs 200 kilograms, moving at an average speed of around 20 miles per hour. Considering that the front part of the body will be striking the victim, and we're talking about 11,673 newtons of force, 110 to 117 kilopascals. Ribs fracture at 50 to 80 kilopascals, and skulls fracture at around 100. Meaning if you and your buddies happen to be in the way of an enraged gorilla, you would all go down like bowling pins with potentially broken ribs and air knocked out of you. That's a few Riots temporarily out of commission in less than a second. So now that we've got our basic stats, let's begin to draw out our 3 scenarios. Riot. Species, Homo sapiens sapiens. Height, 1.8 meters. Mass, 90 kilograms. Reach, 0.74 meters or 2 feet 5 inches. Striking force, 1,000 to 3,000 newtons. 2,500 to 3,000 newtons on a kick. Bite force, 198 psi. Harambe. Species, gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Height, 1.78 meters. Mass, 200 kilograms. Reach, 1.2 meters or 4 feet. Striking force, a bash of 6 to 12,000 newtons. Bite force, 530 to 1,200 psi with canines. So, we have the king of the meme apes against our rioting army. From this perspective, it should be a pretty simple answer, right? Well, it gets a little more complicated depending on the scenario.
Yeah.
Scenario number 1, the gauntlet route.
Oh boy.
In this one, we take the question as a gauntlet.
Gauntlet route? Like what? If we're running the ones? Because if they're running the ones... That's 100 dead riots.
Endurance match. Harambe is cornered in a long hallway with the rioting army advancing at him one at a time.
Yeah,
Since the gorilla wouldn't initially see the humans as a threat, the first riot clone is tasked to provoke Harambe and strike.
Yeah.
Damn. Hey, guys, are we really shooting this shit? No, seriously, we might get in trouble. Go on with the sin.
Jesus.
Alright, yeah, got it. Wait, hold on.
Yep, and morale's going down too. That's another thing. That's why this whole thing's all all depending on the scenarios and everything. Because like, there's a whole lot of things that could go wrong, but there's also a lot of things that could go right if done right. Yeah. Because like right now, it just seems like they're all losing morale.
This guy was the real one. No, man. Alright, so as we continue the sim with these clones, you'll find that even as the immortal unit Riot makes its advance, human anatomy and a clone of 200 pounds with less reach is just not going to cut it against an animal more than twice the weight and with many times the punching force.
Yeah.
Our skull cannot handle this much trauma, and given that gorillas do happen to target the most vulnerable points in our body, we're practically cooked, with each clone getting an impact that would turn the underlying bone and organs into mush. At this point, Harambe knows what the next one will do, and without hesitation literally plows through without having to spend valuable energy and attention turning and covering his flanks. Initially, this looks like a certain victory, but here's the catch. If the clone army can keep its wits about seeing themselves marching into certain death one right after the other, they actually might have endurance on their side. One major difference between Homo sapiens and gorillas is how we deplete ourselves from energy. Strength versus stamina is the name of the game today. And under the right circumstances, one may come out on top.
Yeah, that's another reason why I feel like actual Homo sapiens, like back how they were, would do a lot better against a gorilla too. Because like, if I remember correctly, like... like Homo sapiens used to chase animals into heat exhaustion and then, you know, would take advantage of them when their energy's gone, and like that's pretty much what they would do in this too. And I feel like that's another thing like today's humans could do too. Like, you don't even have to fight them, just keep on chasing the thing, because like I said, I feel like a gorilla is more likely to run away from 100 men chasing him, and like it's eventually, and if you just keep on doing that, like not engaged but just keep on chasing it until it runs, until it tires itself out, until like it just passes out from exhaustion, there you go. Yeah. That is if it does actually run away, because I would imagine it would, but I'm not 100%. Yeah.
Assuming that Harambe does use explosive muscle power burns all throughout, after maybe a few dozen fatalities, Harambe may feel the burn of fatigue and run out of juice to dish out heavy blows.
That's possible.
From there on, submission holds and strangling would be the next best option. This, however, puts our human subjects in range of, you guessed it, these. Now, it takes a lot less energy to bite down than to use an entire arm. After all, it takes very little bite force from a gorilla to kill a human, whether it's biting through the skull, neck, or severing an artery that would inevitably cause death. Now, it is possible that the gorilla may figure out that tearing up a human doesn't take that much energy. It may begin to dish out less stronger blows and conserve its energy. Now, it's important to note that against this kind of opponent, no amount of combat skill will help you in a situation where you're head-on against a gorilla. Attempting to block these blows is pointless.
Yeah.
However, 100 people
like
is
you're just gonna get demolished. Like, just don't even bother blocking. Yeah, just uninstall the block button.
20,000 pounds of people, and despite claims that a gorilla would absolutely dominate in this scenario, at best we would have 100 dead riots and a bone-tired, close to dead from exhaustion Harambe. The meme gorilla barely wins this round.
Yeah.
That is, if it decides to go berserk. But the other two come with a very interesting set of factors.
All right, but yeah, the gauntlet routes, the gorilla wins just about all the time, yeah. Very little room for victory in the gauntlet style, yeah. If any at all. Oh, good God.
Scenario number 2, the Sane game. If there is one thing, at least across a vast majority of humans and all animals, is that we don't like dying.
Yeah.
Getting a game over from life is something
Which is why I highly doubt anyone is going to gather up, like, or even going to be able to get up, like, either make their own group or gather a group of 100 people to go fight a gorilla. Unless unless all 100 just really do not care for life and have, like, the mindset of, like, the people from Jackass, then, yeah. Now, that'd be interesting. Take people from Jackass and clone them 100 times and put them up against gorillas. See how that go.
every thinking animal almost always tries to avoid. We can see this in nature, and it's one of the biggest reasons having numbers on your side doesn't always guarantee you a win.
Yeah.
Mother Nature already tells us how men versus gorilla would likely go. Hyenas usually have standoffs with lions. Wolves also have standoffs with grizzlies. And in theory, it would take around 3 to 4 of these to take down the big guy. But why don't they most of the time? Because it only takes a grizzly bear a few moments to seriously cripple or kill a wolf.
Yep.
And who is the next?
The trouble ain't worth it, because you're gonna get more harm than you're gonna have more harm than good now.
Suicidal one who wants to come next. Scenario number 2 takes place in a wide room with enough space to house a brawl between 100 riots and 1 gorilla. The rules of engagement: no tools, no places to hide or climb, a flat arena with no terrain advantages. Here's where superior human intellect and that extra space in our skulls comes in handy.
All right.
Strategy. We asked Riot what his strategy would be,
boy.
and also surveyed a few hundred folks as to what they deemed to be.
Yep, I'll go back. Surround the gorilla and jump in all at once. Yeah, I don't attempt to corner the gorilla against the... Yeah, good luck. Attack in waves of 20 men. Nope. Distract the gorilla from the front and ambush from behind. Good work.
Also surveyed a few hundred folks as to what they deemed to be the better strategy based on the most common tactics we were able to gather from the internet. The most popular and resorted to strategy was surrounding the gorilla and all going in at once. Initially, this scenario seems favorable to us humans, but we have a problem that may tilt the odds catastrophically.
Oh boy.
Something that, dare we say, the majority of people tend to ignore is factoring in self-preservation. That is, the act of tapping out of a situation when things don't look favorable. Here's how this works. The gorilla would obviously not be comfortable seeing that 100 humans are taking position around him, and then they all begin to rush. Any animal in this situation would immediately have alarm bells going off in its brain and activate fight or flight mode.
Yeah.
This charge isn't going to register in the gorilla's brain as a giant group hug. So the gorilla here is already prepared to throw hands. And when it throws them, all strategy has also been thrown off the equation. Despite having a set plan to practically dogpile the gorilla, humans will not have the willingness to be the first 12 to actually undergo the 100% chance of getting pummeled into ground meat.
Yeah.
In all realism, it will actually look like this. And the gorilla here is already fired up. The preceding sequence of events will be described as an absolute slaughter, with demoralized humans running, trying to avoid being the next one mauled. Now, realistically, in this scenario, a gorilla does not have sufficient stamina to run around and chase every single one. It's likely that after the first 5 down, the people will back off, and
And I'd like to throw in another 2 cents. I feel like, because while the morale thing, I just thought of this. The morale thing does make sense, because, morale is definitely going to go down when the first people go down. But at the same time, no sane group of 100 people are going to fight a gorilla. And if we got, 100 people to go fight a gorilla, I think it's safe to assume that all sanity and the willing to live has been thrown out the window, and they just won't care. Yeah, I think it's safe to say in that case. Unless they're just, just 100 group of men who somehow thought they're just really stupid and just thought this was a good idea, only for the first go down and be like, nope. No, but for the people who would willingly do this, know what they're doing, are not sane, and clearly don't have any will to live, I don't think they'll care at all. Yeah, the morale debuff will not affect those type of people like any bit at all. Yeah.
In the act, allowing the gorilla to have a breather, regaining its stamina to fend off the next wave of suicidal riots who think their buddy is actually going to follow through with said wave. This confrontation will take hours at this rate.
Yeah.
With every man down, the chances of taking out this gorilla and being granted an exit off the arena diminish greatly. With Harambe picking out random people off one by one, none brave enough to be the next to die. But at the end, after many hours, perhaps days, Harambe will come out as the undisputed winner of this battle, with the determining factor here being a loss of morale. Yes, fear is one of those things that spreads. All it takes is one wimp, and then the sentiment multiplies. But let's pretend for a moment that this wasn't a factor, and we found a way to properly motivate the Riot Army to actually fight to the death.
Ron, where are you on this stance?
Listen, the bottom line is this. 100 men, assuming they're all healthy in their 20s, and they are going to be united, understanding that there's going to be collateral damage. A few of the guys aren't going to make it.
Yeah.
Scenario number 3.
Yeah. It's just funny because the more and more we go into this, we just realize how ridiculously funny this is.
Absolute insanity.
Yep.
In scenario number 2, the biggest weakness ironically ended up springing up out of our biggest...
But, you know, I feel like, you know, you would have to be united and understanding before 100 people try and do this stupid shit. Like, just... Yeah, hence my point on why I don't think the morale debuff is going to mean much at all. Yeah.
Strength. The big problem is that the humans were too sane, too aware of the brutal consequences, and decided not to engage. So, for this scenario, we'll fix that by injecting him and his clones with every psychedelic and stimulant drug known to man that can cause violent outbursts and hallucinations. Add that to the fact that Riot himself admitted that his self-preservation is practically non-existent based on his previous combat experience. This will be added into the sim. Now, with effectively an army full of coked-up bath salt zombies, we turned the fresh army loose on the big, aforementioned 490-pound gorilla. The ape, on high alert, and at this point realizing that these humans are not here to take pictures, gallops around looking for an escape, but there is none. At greater range, and with many times more powerful swings, the first clone is immediately pulverized, followed by the second, third, fourth, fifth. However, it is at this point where the surrounding sane humans shit their pants. Their pants, however, remain spotless, clean, and the clones fixated on one objective: kill ape.
Yep.
Fear is no longer a factor, and the 6th and 7th clone
Fear, never heard of it.
The arms, another wraps around the neck, and the dog pile begins.
Yep.
In this state, humans would likely resort to more unorthodox methods of attack.
Biting.
Bites are more frequent, exposed fingers are bitten, and some skulls ripped off the neck. But the piling weight increasing by hundreds of pounds each second.
I guess you could say they went ape shit. That'll stop.
Is too much to bear. According to our model, and taking into account the crushing weight of a select number of 200-pound riots, the gorilla would perish under the weight of around 5 tons of human, smothered without the ability to expand its chest cavity to breathe properly.
Yeah,
but
that'll do it.
This did not come without a huge cost.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Despite the crushing victory.
Yeah, like no matter what, you're not getting out of this unscathed.
The riots inflicted casualties on themselves too, with around 30 to 45 individuals trampled to death or crushed under the weight of their fellow maniacs.
Yeah.
So, to finally answer the question, can 100 slightly above average people defeat one gorilla?
Yes.
No. Can 100 suicidal maniacs win?
Yes.
Yes. Going further,
what did that say entirely? Hold on, go back.
Can 100 slightly above average people defeat one gorilla? No.
Okay.
Can 100 suicidal maniacs win?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's... I had to go back and re-listen to that. He didn't mention the mindset the first time. That's why I was just like, yes.
Going further, we estimate that 100 is not even necessary given these specific circumstances.
Yeah, probably.
30 riots with no self-preservation instinct might do the job.
Yeah, so if anything, it's just overkill then.
We just have to figure out if any of the surviving clones are the original and get Riot back to his channel after the drugs wear off.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah, pray they don't turn on each other from that. Yeah. Oh god, it'll be like who's the last Riot standing takes the place of the original. There. Oh, Christ. I looked at the comments and someone said, now let's have 100 gorillas fight Primatus Rex. I still believe that 100 men beats the gorilla more times out of none, mainly because, like my point earlier, like, if they're fighting, all sanity and will to live has been thrown out, so, you know, they're just going at it, yeah. Like, their fallen brethren don't care, don't matter. Unless 100 people, just random people, have just been forced into it, then yeah, different situation. But, you know, yeah. But yeah, that was a really fun video. This is probably one of the funniest takes on this, yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video now. So if you enjoyed it, check out the original video, which will be linked in the description below. Go check out Goji Center, he'll be linked in the description below. I'll also link Riot in the description as well, so go check them out as well if you like. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good day. Check out my Twitch and gaming channel if you like to. Have a good day, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Damn, screw my outro.